Hello, welcome, and sorry. My name is Jor. I'm here with the Maple Bitcoin guys. I'm sorry, no, I'm not Jor. I'm going to stop that. It wasn't even funny. Jor, we want you to see this, and we want you to get offended because now this is how you look. Okay, so we have a different kind of show here today. I think this is going to be really fun. Um, we're not talking about like the typical topics that you see. We want to explain how Bitcoin is a massive paradigm shift. And what we mean by a paradigm shift is just something that really completely changes your world, right? You're going to see Bitcoin. There are certain people who can see it, other people who can't. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's what I mean by paradigm shift. It's like if you think about it, Forrest, do you mind sharing my screen there?
Of course, yeah.
So there's a picture here. So the paradigm shift is let's actually look at what a paradigm shift is. So a paradigm shift is a fundamental change in the basic concept and experimental practices of a scientific discipline. It is a concept in the philosophy of science that was introduced and brought into common lexicon by American physicist and philosopher Thomas Kuhn. Even though Kuhn restricted the use of the term to the natural resources, the concept of paradigm shift has also been used in numerous non-scientific contexts to describe a profound change in a fundamental model or perception of events. So, an example of this, I want to show you guys this picture.
Mm-hmm.
If you take a look at this picture, what do you see? I'm going to give you a couple of minutes if you want to. Maybe a few seconds. We'll talk more about this, but I'll give you a few minutes here to post your view. What do you see? Just post it in the comments if you have a chance. And I think it's going to be fun because different people will see different things, right? And what I mean by this is, see, somebody said duck, and I think I hope there's more people who comment and they give their view, and then other people can just see what the difference is. But there is another thing that you see here. But what do you guys think about paradigm shifts?
Yeah, I mean, we got the other answer here, rabbit. So
There you go.
that's what's interesting about a paradigm shift, right? And I think we're going to get into a lot of people seeing rabbits here. That's crazy.
Yes.
A paradigm shift is that thing where it's happening, but you don't see it until you see it. So a lot of the groundwork of a paradigm shift can be established, right? Like the rabbit exists in this photo, the duck exists in this photo at the same time, but based on your perception, you either see one or the other. Like even looking at it, I know that I can see a rabbit, I can see a duck, but I sort of have to like decide which one I want to see.
Yeah.
So both those things are existing at the same time. And Bitcoin is kind of like that. Like it's existing, it's already there, but not everybody sees it yet. But it is so different from the other system that it is built to replace.
Yeah. John, your thoughts?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, I agree. But I think, I haven't fleshed this thought out, but I'm thinking this sort of for the first time. What I think is super interesting about it is we often say Bitcoin is a paradigm shift, but there's actually, it's almost more like Bitcoin is the lens that lets you see, because what your real paradigm shift is seeing the existing system that you grew up in differently. So it's like you're spending your whole life looking at this thing thinking it's a duck. And then finally somebody comes along and they're like, here's a pair of glasses or whatever. And you put them on, you're like, holy crap, it's a rabbit. Right. And like rabbits are way better than ducks in this analogy. Right. So that's kind of like, I feel like that one of my favorite things about Bitcoin is that this idea that I almost have never, ever almost seen anybody who really gets it and then goes back. Like you see that once or twice. Like I think Nicholas Taleb or whatever his name is, like he's sort of a guy who seemingly got it and then went back, but he's the only one I ever think of who kind of got it and then decided Bitcoin's not the thing. Like the vast majority of everybody else seems to, once it clicks for them, they don't go back to going, no, like the guy in the Matrix who was like, I want to go back, Cypher or whatever. Yeah.
I think for Nassim Taleb, the issue wasn't even that he didn't like Bitcoin. I think he didn't like Bitcoiners. So I think it was more like an ego thing.
Yeah. It's always an ego thing.
That's it. Yeah. Sorry, Forrest, can you share that again? I just want to explain to everybody what they see. So, okay, so what you see here is if you see a duck, you probably see a bill here, like the mouth, the eye, and then this is the head, right? So if you see a rabbit, I'll just show it to you. The rabbit, this is the nose. This is like I guess the forehead.
Mhm.
And then these are the ears. It's almost like turned.
Yeah.
Right. So, and the reason why I wanted to talk about this, and I wanted you guys to talk about what you think of a paradigm shift. The reason why I wanted to talk about this is because this is exactly what Bitcoin is, right? So some people see Bitcoin as this Ponzi scheme, a pyramid scheme, and they can't unsee it. They're not going to unsee it. They choose not to unsee it. So you can choose here to see a duck, and if somebody tells you no, it's a rabbit, you could say no, you're an idiot, right? Or you can try to figure out that this could be a rabbit. You could try to figure it out. You could put in the time, spend a little bit of time, maybe spend an extra minute. Same thing. There's another one like this of a woman. I think I saw it before, but I don't see it now. I'm not sure. This is supposed to be an old woman and a young woman.
I don't see the old woman on this one.
Yeah, none of us could see it, but maybe maybe it's like, okay, you maybe we're the people who think that Bitcoin is a Ponzi scheme right now. And if we spend a little bit more time studying it and we take a look at the picture for a few more minutes, maybe we see that it's no longer a Ponzi scheme. It's actually the best money in the world.
It's also like how you explained where the rabbit was. Like there was a comment of somebody saying, I'm not seeing the rabbit. This guy says, I'm not seeing the rabbit. Yeah. I think probably after you explained the way that it was orientated, he could probably see it. So it's kind of like this same thing. Like I just can't even figure out where to start with this one of making it into an old woman or how it looks like an old woman. And I think I could stare at it for probably a pretty long time and still not find it. But if somebody explained it to me, just as somebody can explain Bitcoin, I think that could be a shift.
Yeah.
So this guy says,
for sure. I mean, obviously, I agree. I was just looking up how to see the old woman in this one because I wanted to see if I could figure it out. But yeah, you're right. It's like what it's like to be a no coiner, which at one point we all were. So we all were the no coiner looking at this painting, going, I don't understand how anybody sees it.
I see the old woman.
No way.
Oh my God, I just saw it. Okay,
so something about the old woman's nose is the young woman's chin.
This is the mouth.
What?
You see it? This is the mouth. This is like the nose. This is the nose. Do you see it? This is the eye facing that way. The hair. This is the mouth. This is the chin.
Oh my God. Yeah. Oh, whoa.
Right? Now you can't unsee it. That's crazy. I just saw it.
Oh, that's crazy. Okay, so it's like zoomed in, like the woman's much closer. The face is way bigger than the young woman.
Yes, a few people mentioned this. I just saw it. Wow, that's crazy. What about the other one? This one?
Okay, it's probably the same nose. Yep, it's the same. I see it. Yeah, there's sort of like eyelashes where the hair and the eye is the ear there, and so those are like little. Almost kind of like eyelashes or something, or eyebrows.
Oh, I think I
don't
see
know how
it.
to explain it really.
Oh yeah, now I finally see it. So it's like a hook nose. The chin is like is like an old lady hook nose, like out of a fairy tale. And then you can't really see her mouth because it's kind of covered like by like a
maybe that's
like
not
a coat.
Yeah, that one is harder. That one is harder to see. This one's pretty easy to see.
This one is what it's supposed to be.
It is that amazing thing where once you see it for the first time. Now then you can see it every time you look at it, and you can switch back and forth. Yeah.
Now you can see both. Yeah, that's exactly it, right? That's the cool part with Bitcoin. Once you see what Bitcoin is, you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
If somebody points it out to you, like, okay, the fiat system is a scam, and it opens your eyes to it, maybe you'll need to look at it a couple of times. I think I've heard that there has to be 7 touch points with Bitcoin. Is that it?
Well, that's something for like advertisers know that's like a marketing rule. If you're seeing something 7 times, that's when you're actually going to kind of, you can see things 7 times and you will have seen it, but you won't have internalized it in any way mentally to actually care about it or to understand it in any sort of way. So that's why a lot of advertising is just meant not to get somebody to do something like an immediate call to action. It's just brand awareness. So that's sort of the same thing with Bitcoin, right? And I'm sure, like, if I look back in my mind or into my history, I saw Bitcoin at least 7 times in some respect before I even cared enough to understand it. You know, I saw a Bitcoin ATM, played around with it a little bit, but again, just didn't care what that was. saw it online, a friend, knew about it, whatever, right? So it's like if I probably went back and exactly could remember all of it, it probably was 7 times before I actually cared about it.
Yeah, that makes sense. 7 times. How many times do you think you saw it, John?
I don't know, man. I definitely went through sort of probably the classic like Bitcoin, discover Bitcoin, maybe buy a little bit of it, but think it's the same as all the other things. And like, oh, what's the other thing that's going to hopefully go up, 500% by tomorrow? It's Litecoin and it's XRP and it's this and that, 2015 or whatever, looking on Reddit and different people just shilling different things and just not seeing that any of these things are different from each other, right? In any way, shape, or form. It's like, oh, Filecoin,
Yeah.
And so I definitely like had that at the beginning, and then probably like a long drought of like not really caring about it, right? Like, and then eventually coming back and seeing it a few more times, and then it just like starting to click a little bit more, and then for some reason something just making it actually click, to like where you say, just like looking at the picture where you're like, it finally clicks, and you're like, oh, now I see the whole thing differently, and then there's no going back.
Yeah, once it clicks, it clicks. I've personally never met somebody who understands Bitcoin and doesn't want more.
Yeah.
They all want more, right? They all just want more. Michael Saylor, he has like 650,000 Bitcoin with strategy, and he still wants more. He's still trying to find ways to accumulate more.
Yeah. Well, again, what's interesting though is he's got that infamous tweet where he said Bitcoin is going to go the way of online gambling, which both those predictions are terrible, right? Because online gambling.
The irony
so
is that he was
popular.
right in that both things took off, but that's not what he meant
actually.
when he tweeted it.
Yeah, that's true. So maybe that was his 5th time hearing about Bitcoin, right? Maybe he needed a couple more times before he actually like, I think it was, what's his friend, Eric Weiss, I think, or something, kind of explained it to him. Is that there? Yeah, there we go. Days are numbered. Wow.
Yeah.
What a call.
It did suffer the same fate as online gambling. Both of them are huge now.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh, wow. That's a good point. I didn't realize that's what you were saying. Yeah. So it suffers the same fate as it is suffering the same fate. They're both going crazy.
Yeah. It's
Right,
not what he meant, but
I mean, look at that. That's 11 years apart. That's what's crazy. Like, 11 years and 5 days. And what a crazy shift. I mean, there's a paradigm shift happening in Bitcoin and like everybody's perspectives. And this is really just right on the table right there, right? Like he has completely shifted his perception of the value of Bitcoin. He was basically saying it's worthless. It's a speculation thing. It's, you play around with it, lose a bunch of money. That's what his first tweet was. Next thing is if you're not buying Bitcoin at the top, you're leaving money on the table. And that's all he does is buy Bitcoin every day, constantly at any price. He'll buy Bitcoin. That's a complete shift.
Yeah, that's why I do think the ego test is like harder to pass for most people than the IQ test, because you just from this, you could see, I do think most people just wake up, like he probably just fired that tweet off without really thinking about it. He just thought like just losers in their basement playing with online, magic internet money. And of course it's never gonna be worth anything. You're an idiot if you think that. Like most people just come straight from that can never work. That's probably stupid. I'm not even gonna bother thinking about it place. And that's sort of starting with I can only see the duck. You're an idiot if you think it looks like a rabbit. What are you talking about? On with my day. Who cares? Why bother looking into that more? But that's the thing with Bitcoin, like it'll never stop. Like eventually it will always keep coming back. Like the people who always say it's going to zero. Why does it keep making higher highs and higher lows? Like I always say this in my videos, like people say it's a tulip bubble. Look at the tulip bubble chart. It goes like this. Up, down. Look at the Bitcoin chart. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, down. Higher lows and higher highs for its entire history. Those two things are not the same thing. Like if that's your analysis, you're like a toddler, level of analysis at that point.
Yeah, tulips have never recovered. But what's interesting about this is the tulip mania happened in Holland. And to this day, Holland has a huge tulip industry even still.
Right. Yeah, it's still the epicenter.
Yeah. And I mean, of course, it was a bubble. It was a speculative bubble that happened, but it's still been an industry for, I don't know, hundreds of years or whatever. Yeah, 1630s, right? So hundreds of years. It's been part of the part of the industry of Holland. So never recovered to the same highs, but nevertheless.
Yeah, I thought this was pretty cool. So if you see, okay, so I think that's another paradigm shift, right? People see this when they look at Bitcoin, but they don't see this because they don't zoom out. All they see is this. They see going up, coming down, and then they give up on it.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think one of the issues with most people is that they get in too late in the bull market, and then they think they're going to make a lot of money, and then they get hit hard by the people who held the whales.
It's even like you can just get tossed around a bit by the volatility if you don't know enough about this. And you can just like, even if you've made a little bit of money or lost a little bit, like it doesn't have to be devastating for you to just be like, you know what, I'm out of my element here. Like I can't play with this. Like this is just too much. I don't know anything about this. I'm just going to go back to work. I'm going to focus on my job, whatever. Right. And I feel like that's exactly what I did. Like I played around in 2017 with trading some Bitcoin. And then I was just like, you know what? There's probably money to be made here. There's a ton of shit I don't understand. There's a ton of S coins I was buying and selling, all this stuff, right? And I was just like, I'm just going to focus on my business. And then I just ignored it for years, and years and years, because I just didn't know enough, and I got tossed around. I made a couple $100, whatever, like it wasn't much, and then just moved on. I think that's what this does to people until they're ready to shift their mindset around it and realize like the volatility doesn't matter. This is a long-term savings technology. You just park your value in it. And over time, if you have a long enough time horizon, this thing rises faster than anything else. And you're participating in a new monetary network that is fair and just and will provide a better world. So everything aligns once you realize those things.
Yeah.
Time preference is basically one of the biggest lessons of Safety's book, right? Like this is not a high, like shift yourself from being at a high time preference, short-term fiat thinking minded person. Bitcoin is going to, if you think like that, Bitcoin is going to humble you and teach you a lesson. It's going to humble everybody and teach everybody a lesson, basically, right? Like the ego test thing.
Yeah.
Everybody's humbled by Bitcoin at some point. But if you're having that fiat mindset of the high time preference, I'm going to get rich overnight, I'm going to trade it, whatever, it's going to humble you and it's going to teach you patience and low time preference. And so again, back to the paradigm shift thing, right? Like that is a paradigm shift when we've all grown up in a fiat system of like everything is get rich quick, get rid of, spend the money, buy cheap crap, all, everything, take on debt. Bitcoin is the opposite of all those things. It's there to teach you to switch from the high time preference to the low time preference. And if you can't do that, you're not going to pass the ego test. And you're not going to get it.
Yeah. Like if people, there are people out there who probably put their rent money into Bitcoin here. And then they were thinking, oh yeah, it's going to double. I'm going to make 2 months of rent money from this thing. And then I'm going to dump it. But that's the thing, right? Bitcoin punishes you if your intent is to make quick profits, because you're not. No matter what happens, like so I think it's more like how late you get into Bitcoin. So if you're early in Bitcoin, you might make it for a little while, but at some point you're probably going to get wrecked if you want to keep like making profits. And again, that's one of those things where if we go back to the optical illusion, people think that, oh, they can just predict everything about Bitcoin. And I think that's one thing that Bitcoin is going to punish a lot of people for. A lot of people think that, oh, the 4-year cycles happened and they'll keep happening over and over and over and over and over again, and they're going to trade it, right? And we're building models that are predicting that that's going to happen, and we're using those assumptions where retail was the one that was dictating the market. So if we take a look at this chart here, retail made this market happen. And if we zoom in here, let's zoom in right here. So retail made this happen, right? This volatility is from retail.
Yeah.
Right. And now it's like, if you look at the charts, it's more smooth. Even here, look at, this is what retail made it happen. Like you can see how quickly it dropped. It went from $10,496 to $3,800 from February of 2020 to March of 2020. Wow, in a month.
Yeah,
in a month, it dropped 60% or so. Right? Even here, I would say even this, sorry, Forrest, I keep interrupting you, but I meant, I would say even this is purely retail. And then after this, like if you look at what's happening, it's more smooth.
Yeah, less volatility. That's definitely been happening. I think, you're talking about the 4-year cycles here and how people are trying to predict them and stuff. I think even if the 4-year cycles happen, the ability to trade them is unrealistic for 99% of the people out there. So it doesn't even matter if the 4-year cycles happen. Your ability to time the bottom and top is not going to be, you're not going to be able to do it. Like that's just flat out, straight up it, right? If you look at the statistics, it's like 1% of traders beat the S&P, right? It's just like, and if you just buy Bitcoin at any point, right? Back to that Sailor quote, I'm buying Bitcoin at the top. If you buy Bitcoin at the top, it doesn't matter. Your compound annual growth rate is going to be way higher than the S&P. If you think that you're going to be able to trade this thing, that's the illusion. That's the thing that you need to shift in your mind, because yes, the 4-year cycles have happened. They've been somewhat predictable, but your ability to think, like when it's going up, you're going to think, oh, it's going to go even higher. When it's going down, you're going to think, oh, it's going to go even lower. And you're not going to time it right because of those two thoughts, because it's very tough to call the bottoms and the tops when they're happening.
Yeah. That's why I love the I'm buying the top forever quote too, because if you have a low enough time preference, there is no top. Every top is a local top if you zoom out. So like you just keep buying the top and just wait, and then that won't be the top. So don't worry about it. But like another thing I think I got from Sailor originally too, in one of his presentations, at a conference or something, he talked about this stat where the vast majority of Bitcoin's gains come in like 10 trading days in a year.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of my favorite stats. There's a couple charts. I'll see if I can find them somewhere or something that show this, that like if you missed holding Bitcoin for the 10 best trading days of the year, it could actually turn into a negative asset because so many of the gains come in just those 10 days. This is actually to a high degree true of the S&P as well, by the way, which is interesting. So it's another reason not to trade either one. But Bitcoin is like, if you're just like, oh, I'm trading in and out and I'm going to time it, and then oopsie, I missed, 5 of the best days out of the year. You just took yourself from, the best returning asset of all time to something that's equivalent of, maybe a, middling stock or even a negative returning asset, just because you you were holding fiat on the wrong day and you missed that big moon.
I was just going to quickly say, Rajat and I met because I made a video about that exact subject. I made a video saying Bitcoin is max pain because Bitcoin trades sideways and down, except for those 10 to 12 days per year where it trades upwards and it violently moves upwards. And if you miss those, you're probably going to underperform because it's trading sideways and down, which it's just the whale sort of manipulating the market in the short term. So yeah, I mean, that's a truth that, and what are you going to buy it exactly the day before it goes up for some crazy macro reason that just, some news event or something? Like, right. You're going to time that.
Yeah. And see, that's another paradigm shift, right? It's a paradigm shift to think that, I can time the market and people get lucky once or twice. Actually, I think that's probably one of the worst things to happen if you take on leverage and then you actually win. Because what's going to happen is you're going to keep trying and you're going to keep trying and you keep trying. You're going to lose once and you're going to lose twice. And you think, no, I did this before, so I can do it again. And you're going to keep trying. And this is, I guess, where gamblers are born, right? Gambling addicted people, where they can't get out of the market and they can't stop doing it because they did it once and they want to keep repeating that. So one of the things that I was thinking about is Ver Hoofty Flufen said, I'm betting against your thesis. That's perfectly fine.
Some people got to touch the stove.
But I see, that's the thing. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I mean, it's possible, right? Maybe there's like a 60-70% chance that I'm wrong because historically it's already happened. I'm not saying that I'm right here, but the thing is that if I end up being right, you can't go back. On the other hand, if I end up being wrong, I can still go into the market and buy more Bitcoin. Right, I'm actually at an advantage because I'm predicting that Bitcoin is going to go up forever, and I'm going to keep creating more and more value to support the Bitcoin network. And over time, I'm going to be creating more and more and more value. I'm going to get paid more. And when Bitcoin's price falls, I'm going to buy as much as I can.
Yep. Yeah. There's you miss out, and you're probably also going to make a mistake there too, because you're going to probably have a shorter term time horizon than you would like. And when that parabolic moves happens to the upside, then you're going to be like, oh, wow, I missed out. I made a mistake. I'm just going to buy in now. And then you're buying in at the local top, and you'll be fine in the 4-year period. But if your time horizon is still in that sort of, if you still have that perspective, you're now watching yourself go down, 10, 20, 30%. And maybe you're like, oh, this sucks. And then you sell, right? Like, you're just going to, it's like you keep kind of making similar mistakes.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully you don't VHF there, but yeah, hopefully you do
people just
fine.
got to touch the stove, man.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, next time he'll be one of us, and he'll be like, all right, guys, I tried it. You could try it in like a paper trading account. You could try it in, with $5. And next time the candles are flying up and you're like, oh, I'm going to sell. And then they keep flying up and you're like, oopsie, maybe I don't have a crystal ball.
Yeah, exactly. Also, to everyone in the chat, I am starring questions. So if you guys do have questions, we will eventually get to them. And yeah, we're just kind of staying focused on this topic for a little bit, and then we'll get to your questions. It does help if you do them in all caps. Then I can make sure to star them, and we can answer them about halfway through the show. So thanks everyone for that.
Yeah. And we got a super chat there from Caspa Onion about something completely different. I think this has so Caspa Onion left a comment under my video this morning about something very similar, and similar to the topic that they're referring to. So the topic they're referring to is basically the knots versus core debate. Have you made any videos on that, John?
It was a while back when it flared up, like a couple months ago in the summer. When I was like first diving and trying to better understand it or whatever, I kind of made a video that wasn't like super hard taking one stance or the other. It was more like, what is happening here? If you're someone who doesn't know, like, can we try to understand it? I've been like, life's just been crazy. So I haven't made anything about it in the last, since it sort of flared back up, from what I can tell on Bitcoin Twitter, just like nonstop talking about it. But yeah, I've been trying to pay attention.
Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. So yeah, I'll read this out and we can kind of get into it a little bit. To be fully self-sovereign, Bitcoin forces you to be a database archival node. What if you don't want to be a database, and risk illegal content? Isn't pruned nodes the answer? Yet Bitcoin can't survive on only pruned nodes. Yeah, pruned nodes are never going to be the answer in any way, in my opinion.
See, you said that so seriously, but I find that so funny because there's a whole group of people, like all the shitcoiners, think that pruned nodes are the answer. But sorry, keep going. I'm sorry I interrupted you on that, but I thought that was really funny. It's so true.
They're just not. And so there is the ability, I believe, to prune out certain parts of even archival nodes. Like op return isn't part of, like, it's a valid transaction, but it's not part of like the UTXO set, and you could technically prune around that and you're still running basically an archival node. If that is where, now that's something I need to do a little bit more research on, but I do believe that to be slightly true. If that's possible now, I'm not 100% sure. But there's other ways that arbitrary data, or in this case, illegal content, has already entered the blockchain. It's just been hacked into it. It hasn't been basically allowed in one congruent, serialized way. And that data still has to be sort of transcribed or transformed into what it represents, because it'll just show up as like information. It doesn't show up like, you don't look at the blockchain and see a JPEG. You still have to transform that into a JPEG. So basically what I'm saying here is that as much as this illegal content part of like the core versus knots debate is important, and I think it's something we should try to avoid, I don't think it actually destroys Bitcoin. I don't think it destroys the ability for an individual to run a node. I think a lot of people think that. I think that's been said by a lot of people, but I personally don't think that to be the case. I think there will be basically the plausibility of you saying, I did what I could, to avoid relaying this. And I didn't personally put this into the blockchain. It's already existed in the blockchain already. So, and that hasn't been a problem to begin with. I think it could definitely make a problem optically for like the news sake if a bunch of this starts to happen, which could drive the price down. But again, I don't think it fundamentally actually breaks Bitcoin.
But I think, okay, so it doesn't, I agree with you. It doesn't fundamentally break Bitcoin because there will probably be people who are running nodes who are completely anonymous, who can't be attacked, and Bitcoin will survive, right? But I think that people who do want to run nodes and they run nodes for themselves, they don't run nodes for somebody else. They run nodes for themselves. People who do want to run nodes are clearly making a decision here where they're switching from Bitcoin Core and they don't want to have that on their nodes. So can you share my screen there for us?
Yeah.
So what you see here is Bitcoin knots adoption is up to 24.08%.
There is a bit of double counting happening right now because they released a new version. So people have switched and they haven't been taken off the old version as far as it's been counted. But it's between 20 and it's 19 to 25%, somewhere between there, I would say.
So is this one more accurate?
I'm not 100% sure. Maybe.
So it shows 13.76% for knots and then 9.73% for knots, so the newer version.
22 22 and a half is that basically? That's
yeah.
I mean, that's still really high. That's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. So the reason why I'm saying this is because I think that Bitcoin's, regardless of what happens, Bitcoiners are going to choose the right decision for them. Right. And that's what consensus is, right? People choosing the right decision for themselves. They're not choosing what other people have to do. Like nobody can force somebody else to do something that they don't want to, right? Nobody can force anybody else to run Bitcoin Core 30 when it's out. But what they can do is they can release it and they can make it public and people can run it if they want to. But what people are doing is, because there's so much content about how Bitcoin Core 30 is going to turn into this CSAM relay machine. Because of that, because people are understanding this, they're figuring it out, and they want to continue running nodes. It's just all aligning to make it so that Bitcoin will survive for forever, right? Because if people started running Bitcoin Core 30, I mean, of course, Bitcoin would still survive, but there would be a way to attack Bitcoin, and there would be a way to attack Bitcoiners because they're connected to this inappropriate stuff, inappropriate content, right? But when you have something like Bitcoin knots and we have all these people running Bitcoin knots, that's not the case anymore. So the people running Bitcoin knots, they can run a Bitcoin node, but they also don't have the inappropriate pictures that would be on their computers with Bitcoin Core version 30. So to go back to this comment, to be fully self-sovereign, Bitcoin forces you to be a database, archival node. What if you don't want to be a database? You don't have to be. You're a database for transactional data. You can choose not to be a database for arbitrary data. You can choose not to be a database for harmful content and risk illegal content. I think this is what's being missed here. The altcoiners want you to not have to run a full node. That's the goal, right? With Kaspa. So I had a debate with one of the guys from Kaspa, and I think one of my main concerns there was that if you don't have all the records of the transactions, then how do you know that the transactions happened? If you go to your bank and you got a mortgage from them and your bank tells you, hey, we lost the last 15 years of your transactions. Just trust us. This is your balance. You don't have to worry. Just trust us. This is how things are. That's exactly what Kaspa is doing. Kaspa has gotten rid of the history of transactions and they're giving you a UTXO set. And you don't have to be an archival node. All you have to have is the UTXO set. So that's a problem. That's not how accounting systems are built.
It's a like massive trade-off, is what it is.
That's exactly it. So if you run a business, let's say for example you're a mechanic and you go to your accountant and your first transaction is your first invoice is number 137. What's your accountant going to say to you? They're gonna be like, where did number 0 to 130 or number 1 to 136 go? Where did they go? They're not just going to confirm with you your revenue based on your bank balance. That's essentially what Kaspa people are trying to convince the world of. And people say, oh, Kaspa is going to survive regardless of what happens. It's a great technology. It's going to do well. But the network effect of Kaspa is going to die because there's no record of transactions.
It's like in math class. Like you would get 1 point for if you got just the answer, and you would also get a point if you showed your work.
Yes.
It's like if you don't show your work, you could be cheating.
No, wait. If in math class, if you just give them the answer, I don't even think we got the point.
Okay,
They
well,
didn't give
yeah.
us. They thought because you could be
Sometimes
cheating.
we did.
You could be
Yeah.
cheating from the guy next to you, right? If you just write the answer and you're getting half the points, that's essentially what CASPA is, right? CASPA is just they have the record of UTXOs, who owns which UTXO, but they don't have a record of transactions. That's essentially what pruned nodes are, and that's not where the world is going. The world is going towards the truth, right? This is like thinking, if we don't have people can rewrite the history books and they can change history, right? That's essentially what CASPA is trying to do here, but you can't do that. The history books are the end product. The people who remember everything that happened during history are I would say they're the blockchain.
Yeah, it's such a deep rabbit hole. I mean, I tried to go down the CASPA rabbit hole to better understand it. What I came out having a slightly bit more respect for the CASPA people than I did going in. I initially was like, just dismissed it, thought they were just another shitcoiner. And then I was like, okay, most of them are they are Bitcoiners, or were to some degree. And then they got worried about like basically the scaling challenges of Bitcoin. And then they thought CASPA was the answer because they got convinced that the technology that allows them to prune the nodes, it's okay. It's very, very complicated. And when I was trying to understand it on Twitter, basically I came to the conclusion that it seems like basically the only people who understand it are the people who invented it. Like nobody else understands it. The technology of it is like very complicated. And I felt like even the CASPA people don't really understand it. And what you said, the word trade-offs, what this comes down to, what we just talk about CASPA Onion's question, we're talking about theoretical attack vectors on the Bitcoin side of the core versus knots debate, like what's going to happen, are these attack vectors fatal, etc. And then the CASPA thing that they don't really ever acknowledge is the theoretical attack vectors of not running enough archival nodes, like you said, and having these prune nodes where they say, oh, there's pruning proofs and there's all this stuff that allows you to not need a full archival node. It doesn't matter because you got the pruning proof from the previous guy's node, but you just keep going down the rabbit hole and you're like, well, if everyone's running pruned nodes, there are attack vectors that creates. I'm not smart enough to know what every single one of them is. I just know that you keep going down the rabbit hole and you're like, but somebody is feeding you the pruning proof. Where'd he get it from? What if he lied? Like, what if his node lied? Like at some point, that's why Bitcoin has prioritized the ability for plebs and anybody in the world to run archival nodes, full nodes, what do you want to call them? Terminology I know is controversial as well, but that's why Bitcoin has prioritized that, because Bitcoiners have determined that there are other attack vectors, and it matters that a large enough number of people, whoever wants to in the world, can run a full node, and it's not overly burdensome in terms of the cost or the hardware requirements, etc. That plays into the core knots debate too, as well. I know, so it's like a very deep rabbit hole. But yeah, at the end of the day, we're like debating theoretical attack vectors, and to some degree, we don't know the final outcome exactly who's right.
Yeah,
time's going to tell. But I do agree, like, I don't think this is going to kill Bitcoin. And CASPA has not, the market is not bearing out their thesis in that it's not really, like, it's so tiny still. Maybe it's gaining, maybe it's going up, I don't know. But it's like not even listed on Coinbase. Like Coinbase lists everything. Like the market is not on their side yet. Maybe take time, who knows? But I don't see a lot of people going, CASPA is the answer. I see a handful of people, but not a lot.
Yeah, and they might say that they're not listed on Coinbase because there's no central organization allocating a huge amount of CASPA to Coinbase to get listed, right? That everything gets spun in a positive for the people that are holding or part of a crypto tribe. But yeah, it's completely unproven. And there are, these massive trade-offs. And back to sort of like the core knots, illegal content type thing. We've seen this happen in BSV. If you've like paid attention to that did happen in BSV after they changed the op return code.
Share my screen. I have it up.
Yeah. So likely, I don't think that everyone's going to be super keen. Like, I don't think these big economic nodes, like the miners and stuff, are going to be keen to adopt something that could fundamentally hurt them as as a business or a corporation if they end up being liable for including something like this into the blockchain. Now, there might be some nuance with that of miners that don't know or don't care about this. Like I heard somebody talk about how there's a lot of mining pools in China, and they just like are just not even clued into this argument happening right now. So I mean, it's possible one of those will just start to relay and mine in 100 kilobyte op-return blocks or transactions into blocks. But again, we'll see about all this. To me, it has a lot of people worried. I've talked to a lot of people who are like, I'm selling Bitcoin because of this. To me, that seems like not the right choice, personally.
There's another one that they sent to the same person.
Yeah, they really want us to talk about Caspa, that's for sure.
See, yeah, that's exactly it. And I think after this, if they send another one, I don't know if we're going to entertain it anymore. But I think one of the problems here is they mentioned in the previous one that to be fully self-sovereign, Bitcoin forces you to have to be a database. To be fully self-sovereign with Caspa, you have to rely on the developers, and you probably can't explain it yourself. Like everything that's being done in the background, you have to rely on them. With Bitcoin, it's just a math equation. There's literally just a math equation that Bitcoin relies on, and that's the supply. With Caspa, there are so many things that go into it. There are so many things that people can't explain it for themselves, right? And they always refer to this guy named a few different guys. Shy, that's his name. Yeah. So they always refer to him. They always say, "Oh yeah, he'll explain it to you." But what happens if that guy passes away?
Well, yeah, he's one of the 3 people on the white paper, I believe.
Right.
And the most active publicly. But yeah, I don't even understand this comment. Caspa forces you to have cryptographic proofs of the transaction. You love cryptographic proofs. That's what allows you to not have to share your private key word for word, same tech as hardware wallets. Thanks for the convo.
I don't really get it.
Yeah, I don't really get it either. That's what allows you to not share your private key? Okay.
He might be referring to something I said about like the pruning proofs and the cryptographic proofs that they use to not have to have an archival node, and that's the same tech that Bitcoin uses to have public key, private key pair. Maybe that's what he's saying.
That makes a little bit more sense. Yeah,
but I think they're missing the main point here. If you're running a pruned node, you're relying on somebody else to have the rest of the data. So is it going to be like at some point, if the world does adopt Caspa, the full blockchain or the full block DAG, whatever the hell they call it, it's going to be like 5,000 terabytes of data. So who's going to hold that? Is there going to be anybody who is holding on to that? I think today there are like 400 archival nodes for Caspa, and the Bitcoin archival nodes are Bitcoin nodes. The Bitcoin full nodes are increasing by 400 a day or 400 a week. Right. So this thing it's a joke. I don't think this needs to really, there are so many things that they don't want to address. And I feel like that's what's making this so crazy.
Yeah, I think the thing that's true about Bitcoin versus all cryptos is the community and what the community values. I heard about Caspa years ago, and it was 300 and something nodes back then. Like, they have not been growing their node count. And Bitcoin and the protocol, the digital protocol for money, the 2 most important things are staying decentralized and secure. And that happens with miners and nodes coming onto the network. And from there, we can build additional layers and change slight tech. You know, Bitcoin has changed throughout history and will continue to change to some respect to allow layering and transaction throughput that needs to happen as it evolves. But if you go to the base layer chain right now, you go to mempool, there's no transactions. There's a lot of space in the blocks. So have we solved the the transaction throughput problem? Right now we have. I mean, it's going to shift and change as there's more demand and there's more people wanting to use it for what it's designed for. And it will do that in my eyes. So I think it's just like, I think people have been, I think actually people have been tricked by this idea of the trilemma. I think that people have been tricked by the idea that speed is as equal to decentralization and security for a money protocol layer, which is not true. Speed comes secondary, and it's digital, right? So speed is not that hard in a digital sphere.
If we cared about speed, we'd go centralized.
100%. 100%. And it's so it's not equal. It's important. It's a variable, but it's not equal to. And so the trilemma, in my opinion, starts to fall apart in that respect. And that's something that altcoiners of all kinds will point to the trilemma and say, "Oh, we scale on layer 1. We have big giant data centers available to handle all of our archival nodes, or we'll rely on universities to do it," which is part of who runs the archival nodes of Caspa, for instance. And that altruism just has its limits, where eventually they'll say, you know what, why are we spending so much money running this experiment to test with this cryptocurrency or whatever? Let's just stop. It's not worth it anymore. It's costing us too much money, and it's not worth our ability to research it. So we'll move on to something else. And then what happens? You have no archival nodes. It's just, that's a huge risk vector, right? And that's completely insecure. And that's what it all comes back to. And I think the speed can be done on additional layers. It's just as simple as that. And we've already seen that work.
Yeah. It's pretty, yeah, he was respectful about it, which I appreciate. And I have found that, like, you know, most of the Caspa people are not as bad as other shitcoiners, and that, like, their heart's in the right place in a lot of ways, and they're worried about the scaling of Bitcoin, and they think the solution is this other blockchain that solves the speed problem in another way. And they think Bitcoin layer 2s are failures or can't do it. And I would just say, like, to me, that's the wrong, like, let's just work on scaling Bitcoin on layer 2 and solve the problems that Lightning has, or, you know, other layer 2s or whatever. Like that I think is a more viable solution than all this other tech that we've done that's pretty untested and unproven and also hasn't proven that it can solve the scaling problem. It does it in theory. We don't know, and it's very young and new, and it's pretty uncertain.
Yeah. What have we got here? Should we get some more questions here? So let's see. We got
Letha sent a super chat. Let's
I'm gonna get to that. There we go.
Appreciate
Thank you for the $5. Appreciate that a lot. Thank you.
All right, let's go into some of the questions then.
Yes. And the other thing too, just a quick reminder to give the video a thumbs up. That helps the algorithm push out this to more people. There's also, if you want to do basically a Bitcoin super chat, you can send a Lightning payment to the QR code by Rajat there, and we'll read that out as well. I'll just bring that up in case anybody ends up doing that. Oh, we got one here, 210 sats with a note, "We are all Satoshi." Appreciate that.
Nice.
Awesome. All right. So what are some questions here?
I like that question. Oh, yeah, go ahead. I like the one, if World War III comes, Bitcoin will help.
Yeah, let's do it.
I don't know. I think that one's a unique question.
Yeah, I think so too. If World War III comes, Bitcoin will help. This makes me think of the other world wars and how basically World War I, a large part of the catalyst, World War II. Now I'm getting my wars mixed up here. Anyway, one of the catalysts was the devaluation of, I think, the Deutschmark, right? Or anyway.
The Weimar hyperinflation, that was World War I, yeah.
Yeah, World War I.
Yeah.
I'm not much of a history buff, it turns out.
It's all good. I think I'm right. I'm not gonna say yeah. But yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like it's desperation that leads these organizations like a government and the central banks and things to inflate a currency to hyperinflation. Like, that's not in their best interest either, right? They want to slowly bleed people by just having a slight inflation happen and be able to extract that value out for as long as possible. And so when that happens, it's maybe a symptom of other problems or part of the problem that leads to the greater issues, but basically leads to turmoil, war, conflict, right? And this is the title of our show today, is Bitcoin Changes Everything. I think if we got onto Bitcoin more of us got onto Bitcoin, it's going to alleviate the stress within our own lives, and we will not be so quick to conflict, just as individuals, and that happens globally and nationally and whatever as well. But in the event of an actual war, the individuals, again, can help themselves by being able to actually store their value safely and bring it with them. If you own a home, if you own land in a country that decides to go to war or has conflict happen to it, you cannot bring your wealth with you. You can bring with what's in your back or in your car or whatever when you flee, if that's the case. With Bitcoin, you can memorize 12 words with a border wallet, or you could encrypt it. You could create a code to be able to bring that with you in some fashion and bring your entire wealth and savings with you and protect it from people. That's never been possible in a world war. In World War II, people tried to bring gold with them. That gold was confiscated, right? All those valuables were confiscated if they were caught. So it helps the individuals for sure in an area of conflict.
Yeah, and then if you also think about it from the other side of things, where when the Weimar inflation happened, the people who owned gold were protected, right? So Bitcoin is gold for the digital age, meaning you can carry it around with you, like you said there, Forrest. The network isn't impacted by geopolitical issues. Anybody in the world can run a node. Anyone can hold on to Bitcoin. You can memorize your seed phrase and you can recover your Bitcoin anywhere else. If you have a physical wallet, maybe the person who wants to take your Bitcoin can take it from you, but they can't take your memories from you. They can't steal your memories. And you can go on a plane without really having anything physical on your person, which is a game changer for anybody who's trying to get rid of a war-torn area.
Yeah, I think you guys both nailed it. Like, I think there is talk, and a lot of people say like Bitcoin ends war in the long run. I think, obviously that's very theoretical, and I think we're probably a long way off from that because we kind of got to kill the central banks first, the government's ability to fund infinite wars with the money that they create. And we're not, doing that by tomorrow. But that aside, I think it's the individual component. It's yourself, right? It's you. If you have to flee for some reason, the place where you live, Forrest, I think you nailed it. It's like, this is the first time in history where you can take all your wealth essentially with you and no one even knows you have it. That's never existed in history. You can't take your house, right? You couldn't just like stuff a bunch of cash in your pants. Like, that's everything you own, like I think it literally happened in, people with like in the Ukraine, for example, like when Russia invades or attacks or whatever, and some people could literally just like take all their wealth and move it across borders with them, or at least more of it than you could. Yeah. Maybe you can't sell your house in a day or whatever, but more of it than you could by like stuffing gold bars in your pants and then having them confiscated from you at the border. And then the other piece, Rajat, that you said like the same thing of what, just double checked it, because the Weimar hyperinflation happened after World War I, partially as a result of all the money printing to fund the war. So it's like, that's the other, Rajat, like you just said, that's your other way to protect yourself. Your government's gonna debase the hell out of your currency to fund the war, and the only way to protect yourself is to hold something that that the government can't print. So yes, in the past it was gold. Obviously, we believe today that thing is Bitcoin. So if you run into a World War III situation where countries all over the world are printing the hell out of their currency to fund the war, well, how do you protect yourself? And you also have the optionality of, if I have to leave this place, I can do that too. Yeah.
I think that's a really great point, John, to just double tap on that. It's a world war means that the vast majority of the world is going to be engaged in some fashion to this. And what nation isn't in debt at this point? What nation can actually afford to go to war and actually pay for it? Basically, no nation out there. So if there's a war effort and the nation that you are in is going to support that war effort in some fashion, part of the way they're going to do that is through debasing their currency to be able to afford to do it. And that's a silent tax that's going to steal from you if you save in that currency. And so you can protect yourself, even if it's not physically fleeing or storing your value in that way or something like that. It's just about avoiding being a part of the system that there is a thief that can steal directly out of your pocket. in this system. The fiat system is crazy. There's a thief that we elect that is part of the entire system, and we know who they are, and they steal from us, and we just allow that to happen. Like, that's crazy. Like, that's so wild. Once you realize that, if you're still participating in that, that makes no sense.
We just go,
I
as
guess
long as
that's
they don't
another
steal
paradigm.
too fast, it's okay.
Yeah, as long as it's only 2% a year, right?
Yeah. Which it never actually is, by the way.
Yeah.
We always talk about 2% as if that's their target. Go look how many times they've hit the target in the past 50 years. I think it's once.
Yeah,
that's just their target, though, right? Like, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
Sorry,
I guess
Jack,
that goes back to our paradigm shift, right? When you figure out what Bitcoin is, you start realizing that, okay, Bitcoin is the only money that's going to, the only currency that's going to matter if there is a World War III. Everything else is probably going to go to zero. If, let's say, for example, if the US is involved in a world war and they attack and then they get attacked, who's going to want to invest in the US economy? It's going to be very difficult for people to make that decision, because if you invest in the US economy, you're making this concentrated bet in one area of the world. Right. And if you're holding a fiat currency from a certain country, you're taking all of that risk. On the other hand, with Bitcoin, the way that I like to see it is Bitcoin is almost like it's like an index of global savings, you can say, right? It's like
Totally.
it's like when you have the S&P 500, it's like the index of American investing. It's not even global investing, it's American, because when you buy the S&P 500, you're buying companies that are pretty much all situated in the US. And if something happens, let's say, for example, if the US increases tax rates on all of these companies, what's going to happen to the S&P 500? If they just say, hey, we're going to take a wealth tax from you, there's nothing that you can do, right? And the worst part here is that with the S&P 500, you have it locked into a brokerage account, which is holding your shares with a custodian. That custodian can be they can be attacked by the government, and the government could say, hey, you can't move these shares anymore. These shares are now ours. They belong to us. So what are you going to do in that case, right? That's where Bitcoin comes in. So Bitcoin is it's a way to invest in the global economy. Every single thing around the world that can be used to buy to exchange for Bitcoin. So let's say there's a Bitcoiner who wants your table. That table has now become part of the global economy. If you sell it for Bitcoin, it's now part of the global economy for Bitcoin. It's part of the Bitcoin economy. And that's how Bitcoin will continue to grow. Anybody in the world can transact with it. Anybody in the world can use it. Some people will continue to see it as a Ponzi scheme, a pyramid scheme. They'll keep seeing the young woman when there's also an old woman in the picture, even though other people will continue to point it out to them. They still won't see it, right? There's people like Peter Schiff, who he's probably gotten the most requests to debate and to talk about Bitcoin and to understand it, but he's never going to see it because he thinks that the people who see the old woman are idiots, right? That's pretty much it. So when you have something like Bitcoin, which gives you that power to transact anywhere in the world, why would people pick a sovereign currency over that? There's no reason to.
There's no reason to. The only reason to is like local saleability, which is the only reason I hold Canadian dollars, is because I need to pay rent. I need to go to the grocery store, and it's easier to sell my dollars for goods and services here locally than it is to sell Bitcoin, because my grocery store doesn't recognize this this exact concept that we're talking about yet. They haven't seen the old lady or the young lady. They're not even looking at the picture yet, right? Like, if we really go into that analogy, it's like you have to be looking at what currency even is, and they're not even having that conversation yet. So they're born into the system and they're just using it.
We're looking at the picture. If anyone doesn't know what we're talking about the very beginning where we talked about optical illusion. But like, and it's like you see the old woman and you can't see the young woman. Some people see one and not the other. The people you're talking about, Forrest, honestly, it is like an analogy of they're just looking at it and saying, all I see is pencil scribbles. Like, they don't see, because if you zoom out, it's insane that the system of the world is 175 whatever countries. They all have their own fiat currency. So we all have different currencies that we can't use in each other's countries. Mm-hmm. And governments of each country essentially can have monetary control over just hyperinflating and destroying the entire economy. of like a few people can just destroy everyone's lives in the whole country. And this happens all the time. And when people talk about criticisms of Bitcoin and they compare it to the dollar, which is like the best, we talk about the dollar as if it's like not stable because it's inflating. Basically, the entire rest of the world, like more than half the world, lives under a completely unstable monetary regime. So it's like this idea that fiat is stable and it's all fine, and the dollar is the example. Zoom out and look at the rest of the world where like currencies collapse and hyperinflate all the time. And we just go, oh, it's fine. Like this fiat system is totally fine because of 2% inflation target in the West. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, it's crazy that this is the system that we have. And you can't use each other's currencies across borders. Someone said, well, what if you had a digital currency that anybody can use in the world? Nobody can hyperinflate it and anybody can use it in all these countries. Wouldn't that be better? It's like a no-brainer.
And then if you want to go from country to country, they're going to charge you a fee for exchanging your currency. So
because they don't want it. So they're charging you a fee because it's not worth what it's worth where they are.
I mean, like the exchange fee, right? Even if you, let's say, for example, if you get US dollars in Canada, they're going to charge you like 3 to 5% as a spread, just because they're taking the risk of having to hold on to those Canadian dollars or these US dollars, right? Even the best currency in the world is getting, like, if you want the best currency in the world, or if you want to give away the best currency in the world, you're getting screwed.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to quickly say we have another, what is it? Oh, shoot. Sorry.
About 25 minutes?
No. We received a donation here. 10,000 sats to our Lightning wallet. Look at this. 0 network fees. And thanks for moving on from the Caspa convo. Have a great weekend, Cedar Sats. Appreciate that. So you can use this for micropayments, and it works flawlessly.
So now we're getting paid to move away from Caspa. Maybe we can use that as almost like a hostage situation. If you don't send us sats, we're going to keep talking about Caspa.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm just kidding. We're not going to do that. Don't unsubscribe. We're not going to do that.
The same thing we just talked about like Bitcoin used by anybody in the world, anywhere, right? I literally think all you have to realize, like thinking about YouTube as an example, that's a paradigm shift in and of itself. Name one other way that you could just put a QR code on the screen and anybody in the world could send you money with no fee. I mean, people will say Venmo or whatever, but not everybody in the world has Venmo.
We don't have Venmo.
Venmo obviously has centralized control over blocking it if they wanted to or whatever. So name one other way. If somebody sends you a super chat, YouTube, if they do it from an Apple device, Apple takes 30% and then YouTube takes almost 50%, 45% or whatever. So you're going to get less than 50% of what the person sent, versus if they just scan a QR code on their phone, send you money, no fee, no one can stop it. There's nothing else in the world that compares to that.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I went into my bank to talk about doing a wire transfer for some annoying thing I have to do. They literally printed out a piece of paper for me that I have to fill out. I have to fill out all this information on a piece of paper, and then I'm going to give the piece of paper to the person. They're going to file it, enter it into the digital system. It's going to take 5 to 7 days to send money, and it's going to cost $50. And I asked about ACH, which is basically the US version of e-transfer, and they said, nah, e-transfer is not compatible to ACH. You're not going to be able to send money to the States that way. Like, the States is literally like 100 miles away from me, and I can't send you guys money. Like,
that imaginary line in the sand changes everything.
It's insane. It's insane. It's so crazy. Anyway,
that's crazy. Yeah.
Should we get on to some of these other questions here? What do you guys think?
Yeah. Right. Hey, there's a really interesting one about the Bitcoin collateral. Do you see that in the live comments? I think that's actually pretty interesting.
Store it.
From Mabel. It's like, it just came in.
This one here?
Yeah, that one. Yeah. So one of the reasons, so the comment says, I'm interested in Rajat's turnaround about Bitcoin as collateral for loans. As a boomer, can't bring myself to sell or spend a single sat. And in the past, I was really against borrowing against your Bitcoin. And I guess it depends on the circumstances. I don't know. I still don't completely like the idea of borrowing against your Bitcoin, because I don't want somebody else to have access to my Bitcoin. But I think it makes sense, because if the world doesn't want Bitcoin, why would I give it to MicroStrategy, right? If I have to pay for something, if I have to sell some Bitcoin to pay for something and get some fiat, then why would I sell it? Because eventually it seems like MicroStrategy, BlackRock, all these companies are going to end up with it anyways. So why wouldn't I just borrow against it, keep my Bitcoin, take a little bit of a risk on my Bitcoin, let's say a little part of my stack? To me, it seems worth it because that way I get to keep the Bitcoin at the same time as spending what I need to.
Yeah, and I think that the custodial risk is probably one of the biggest problems with Bitcoin lending right now. I mean, it is a securitized loan, so the Bitcoin is backing it. So you do have risk of margin call as well with a volatile asset. And if you don't manage that correctly, you're definitely putting yourself at risk. Like, yeah, leverage is a great mechanism for pushing something, right? Like if you think of literally like, what is that saying? It's like, give me a lever long enough and I can move the world or something like that. It's like,
Yeah,
you can create a lot of change with leverage, but it's also very volatile and risky to add leverage to your portfolio. So you just really need to manage that. It needs to be a very, very small amount. You need to be over collateralized. And yeah, Rajat's got this spreadsheet here, but I could also, I turned the spreadsheet into a pleb tool, by the way, if we want to take a look at that.
Sorry, I just want to update the thing. I just need to
Sure.
change something on here. So
I'm going
there's,
to just, oh yeah, here we go.
oh, I wanted to show you guys the LTV, how the LTV calculator works. Essentially what this is it shows you if you take a certain loan against your Bitcoin, what your LTV is going to be. So your LTV is your loan divided by the amount of collateral that you have. So let's say if you give away 1 Bitcoin, you can take on 50% of that as a Bitcoin loan. So that times 0.5. So if you have 1 Bitcoin right now, you want to use it as collateral, you could take on a loan of $58,000. But the issue is if Bitcoin's price falls to 72K, you're going to start getting liquidated, which
and that's
could
at
be a
an
problem.
80% liquidation.
Yes, that's at 80%. Yeah. So if your Bitcoin price, if Bitcoin's price falls, then you could get liquidated. You could lose some of your Bitcoin. But let's think of it from the other perspective. If you're selling some Bitcoin to pay for whatever you need to pay for, you're guaranteed to give away your Bitcoin. You're never going to get it back, right? You have to pay for it. In this case, at least there's a chance that you'll get your Bitcoin back.
And you're extracting 50% of the fiat value out right away as well.
Yes.
Here, I want to show this as well, Rajat. This is,
yeah,
it's literally the same thing, but it exemplifies it out here on this chart.
Oh, perfect.
So here is the initial starting, and we just have a Bitcoin price of $100,000, so a loan amount of 50, just for easy numbers. And then the interest rate is 12.9, which is what let-in is. So this is all based off of that, really. Bitcoin growth at 25%. So this blue one here is the liquidation price. So your liquidation price is 63K on month 0. But as Bitcoin's price grows, and of course it doesn't grow just in a straight line like this, but the liquidation price grows as well by the 12.9% annually. But in relation to the Bitcoin price, it falls. And that's what this LTV is, right? This LTV starts at 50%. And at month 36, the LTV is 37% if Bitcoin has a CAGR of 25% per year.
Yeah. So one of the things that's really cool here is that if Bitcoin's price doubles, like the collateral that you give away, if it doubles, you can take away exactly the same amount of cash that you would have gotten from selling it. Actually, you can. Yeah. So you could take away the exact same amount of cash that you would have gotten from selling that Bitcoin. So if you set aside, let's say a UTXO for lending, then at some point you can borrow against it. You can basically liquidate the value of it. But then the good thing here, the really crazy thing here is I think we all understand that Bitcoin is going to go up forever, meaning any amount of collateral can be used to essentially get unlimited loans.
Yeah. And the way a lot of these loan stuff works is that you don't have to ever pay it back. They allow you to just refinance it over and over.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, Bitcoin's volatile. So you're using an asset that if you're going to refinance it at the end of the year, you're hoping that your Bitcoin stack has outgrown the value of that loan, which has also grown. Then you can refinance it and extract that extra Bitcoin that's left over if Bitcoin's price has gone up, and just have the same loan active. But that's not always going to be the case based on Bitcoin's volatility, right? If you have a down year, right? So it's not without its risks, but it basically makes sense if you can extract fiat out and have a fiat denominated loan and your Bitcoin outgrows that. It can be really that simple.
Yeah, it's obviously pretty complicated in practice, right? To like Rajat, I think you said you used to have the stance of never borrow against your Bitcoin, and you're kind of softening that. I think you were right to have that stance, and part of that is just due to we have been in the wild west. None of the companies who you could do that with should you be doing that with in the past, for the most part, right? Like, or maybe they were fine, but so many other crypto companies have blown up that you're crazy to take that risk. Like,
Yeah.
and so many people have gotten burned that's why Bitcoin is just like self-custody, like cold wallet. That's why it's hammering home. That's where that comes from. It's because so many people have gotten burned playing games. And in the past, it was even crazier risky to play games with these companies. The industry is maturing. And so the custodians or the lenders who are able to do this are probably, hopefully, more stable, more reputable, and more of them will pop up. So it's becoming that's sort of who the lender is and who the custodian is. That risk is lessening in theory, especially if like regulated banks start doing it or whatever, and maybe it's insured or who knows, whatever. Or like, Chase Bank is probably not going to go under and you lose your Bitcoin away, Celsius did or whatever. So that's one of the risks that's going away. And then the other ones are just personal. You have to weigh out, like, do I need this money now? I really have to buy something and I don't want to sell my Bitcoin. So I'm willing to, like you said, get liquidated and take the risk. If you're just being a high tide preference, I want to borrow against Bitcoin and buy more Bitcoin, you're taking a risk of getting liquidated and, losing your Bitcoin. I wouldn't personally do that today. I'll let other people be the guinea pigs, see how it plays out. And then maybe in the future, when I feel much more comfortable with like 10% of my stack, I'm willing to lose it for the benefit of living off of the borrowing and not having to work. Like, and that trade-off is worth it for me at that point or whatever. Then you're just weighing it the personal circumstances of the risks you're taking. But it's maturing and these options are becoming much more interesting to the point where I think it's worth considering and weighing it out more than in the past. It was a little more crazy to want to do it.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And there's a whole, it's a very complex thing. And I think that's why, like, Rajat and I both have made videos about it. And it's because there's a lot of different variables to it. And it is really personal, obviously, because it's personal finance. But, there's like tax implication or tax benefit from taking out a loan. There's all sorts of all this nuance. And, but you're definitely taking on risk for the leverage. You're taking on custodial risk. And maybe that makes sense with a certain size of your portfolio. If you have something meaningful that you need to extract fiat out for, maybe it doesn't make sense. Maybe it makes sense at certain times within Bitcoin's, 4-year cycle, if you believe in that and trying to time it. And like, right, there's just so many variables. But yeah. Should we maybe we'll just start getting through some of these other questions here.
Let's mention the community first.
Oh yeah, sure. Okay, so on Fridays we do this live stream for around an hour and a half, just under an hour and a half, and then we do what's called the Maple Bitcoin Happy Hour. So we have a school community, which is exclusive school community that you have to join, and we do another hour of live, but it's on a Zoom call, so you can actually join in with your video, with your audio, and ask us questions, have conversations with us. And Rajat actually just shared. Do you mind sharing that in the private chats too, so I can share it on my channel?
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. So this is the link to the school, and it's a community of other Bitcoiners, and we all talk about any questions we might have, and you get access to Rajat, Jor, and I. And the other thing there too is we've made, I think, 6 or so exclusive hour-long master classes that are just value packed, like absolutely value packed, insane.
Yeah.
Is that there? Okay, yeah, you got it. Yeah, these ones here, and those are only available on there right now. Yeah, so there's a 7-day free trial. You can try it out, watch binge watch all of our videos and cancel if you felt like that's the value that you could extract out. That's fine. But you'll probably find a lot more value in here because we've loaded this thing up with value.
Yeah, tons of content on here. Highly recommend that you join if you want to. Even if you want to check out the free trial, you can join the weekly live session today, the happy hour, and you can quit. You never have to join another one again.
Yes, exactly. Awesome. All right. Yeah. So let's just go through some of these. I don't know. I haven't vetted these too much, just kind of in passing. How much Bitcoin should I own for my huge family of 20? I want to have generational wealth take love from South Asia. That's kind of cool. This person wants to not just have Bitcoin for themselves, but for their entire family. Yeah. They want to own Bitcoin for their family. That's really cool, actually. I like that.
Yeah.
It's a hard question, though, to answer because it's really just about what is the living expenses and what is the projected CAGR of Bitcoin.
Yeah. I would say 1 Bitcoin per person.
You're probably going to be solid with that. 20 Bitcoin?
That's going to do it, probably. Yeah. It's obviously
because,
hard to
see. There's no
gauge.
Context. Like we don't know what the expenses are like. We don't know. Like if we knew that, okay, they're spending $10,000 per year for this entire family, right? Yeah. Maybe their cost of living is super low, or like in South Asia, I know that a lot of the expenses are low. Maybe they're spending $10,000 a person per year, or even like $2,000 a person per year for the entire family. Right. In that case, you need a lot less Bitcoin compared to if somebody's living in New York City where they're spending $10,000 per month per person and they have a 5-person family. Right. They're going to need way more Bitcoin with less people.
Yeah. But they could be living in Hong Kong. They could be living in Singapore. They could have incredible expenses. Right. So if we don't have the context, it's very hard to know. But you probably want to stack as much as you can. That's
the only answer. How much Bitcoin should I own? The answer is more. And the only key in your thing, the question that it is generational wealth. And so to me, that says low time preference, stack until you die. You're thinking about the next generation and then the one after that and the one after that. So there's no end goal. You can't stack and stop and be like, my 20 family members are good. Keep stacking until you die for the 5th generation who's to come. And if you have that mindset, you'll be good.
Exactly. Nice. I love that. Let's see. Fiat strips a person of their freedom by creating debt slaves in a world of global consumerism. Bitcoin is the light in the dark that you cannot unsee once seen. This was just a comment based when we started the chat. You know, this was an hour ago now. This comment was made, and I thought it just summed up what we talked about in a pretty good way.
Yeah, agreed,
dude. The debt slaves thing is real. There's so many. I can't believe how many the prices of things these days are like nuts. I saw a short video the other day of a guy like complaining about the price of plywood, and it's like gone. You know, the price of everything has just gone through the roof, and it's not a coincidence. It's not like all the greedy companies just decided to all raise their prices. Just so happened to happen right after the government printed trillions. All governments printed trillions of dollars. You know, in the last 5 years. It's not a coincidence.
Yeah. It's because their inputs go up. The price of their inputs go up. Exactly. The minimum wage goes up. If the minimum wage rises, then they have to charge more money to have the same things made, right? And if the companies, let's say, for example, the companies they're getting their raw materials from, their minimum wage goes up, their costs go up because there are more dollars now chasing the same number of goods. And if let's say they have 10 products or 10 units of a product, and now there's, let's say the system goes from having $100 to $200, and there are 10 units of a product. That 10 units of products is going to double in price because there's more money in the system to be spent on that product. So you have to think of it from that perspective. It's not the companies that are trying to screw you over. It's not corporate greed. It's the fact that the government is trying to, again, this is another paradigm shift, right? This is another, it's like if you can see it as corporate greed, or you can see it as the billionaires are at fault, we should tax the billionaires, or you can see it as governments are using this entire financial system, they're using our trust in them to harvest our energy and to enrich themselves. How you see it is up to you. If you want to see it as corporate greed and billionaires should be killed and their wealth should be taken from them, then you're probably going to end up losing because the billionaires are the ones who control the system. Why would they want their own wealth to be taken from them?
Yeah, it's simple as looking at the margins. Like these companies probably have a set margin of within a range, would be that 10 to 30% margin, something like that, and they're not changing that margin when the price goes up. They're all the other things are changing and their price is changing, but they're probably keeping the same margin. Those margins might even be compressing, because things are just probably getting worse all along the board because of money printing.
Yeah. And this is relevant to what you were saying there.
Yeah.
Profit margin is very thin.
We've talked about paradigm shifts this whole time. The price of tomorrow was a big one for me. Like, we're like, once you get it, you're like, this is so obvious. How did I not think of this myself before I read this book? Like, why? Of course, all technology is making everything more efficient and increasing productivity, which has the effect of driving prices down. Why are all prices going up forever? It just these two things are incompatible. It makes no sense until you realize, well, yeah, the government's job is just to print so much money that erases all the deflationary effects of technology and only causes inflation of 2%, so that you don't really feel it that big of a difference, which we know is BS. But like, so the government's not just stealing 2% of from you, they're stealing all what the actual deflationary effect of all increased productivity and all innovation and all technology would actually be. And that's how much you're actually getting robbed by. And you're like, oh, okay. Once you see that, you're like, yeah, now I'm pissed.
Yeah,
exactly. I thought this was a really great question. So, of course, we all want, this is from Kyle, we all want more, but when is enough, given that we all have limited amount of time? How do you guys think about stacking more versus pursue of other missions? This is a really good question. I mean, we almost talked about this on Maple Bitcoin the other day, Rajat. This is sort of about like balancing your life as opposed to relentlessly stacking sats. What do you guys think about this?
I actually made a video on this, and I had an entire live session. If the audience wants to go check it out, it was a couple of weeks ago. I basically talked about the balance between buying Bitcoin and enjoying your life. I think it's really important because you don't know when you're going to die. How do you know if you're going to get hit by a bus tomorrow? Right? There are people who are dying every day, right? And it's not like they plan it. It's not like they expect to die, right? And if you're just putting all your time and energy into buying Bitcoin, how do you even know that Bitcoin is going to go to your family? Right? What if you spend all your time and energy neglecting your family buying Bitcoin, and then your house burns down, the Bitcoin doesn't even go to your family, nothing, everything that you did is gone forever. Right? So I think it's important to, number one, obviously, make sure that you don't get screwed over if your house burns down, but also spend time with your family, because you don't know how long they're going to have. You don't know how long they're going to be around to talk to you, to be with you, to spend time with you. So finding the balance is key. I think if you have young children, I think it's very important to put in the time to spend with them, especially if they're at the age where they can do extracurricular activities, right? You want to, let's say you put them in like some kind of sport, go to their games, right? Watch their games, enjoy their life with them, try to figure out who they are as a person. I think that's key.
Oh, I mean, I think 100%. I agree with that point of like, I mean, there's two different sort of ways to answer the person's question. One is like, is he talking about like stacking relentlessly and not enjoying your life and like selling everything you own and eating ramen every night and never taking a vacation? Because that then there isn't enough is enough point where you're like, yeah, you need to, I agree, Rajat, like you need to determine what else is important to invest in your life instead of just Bitcoin, which could be your kids or your, health or your relationship or whatever. Right. So yes, there's a point at which, you should slow down and make sure you're not just not living your life. The other way I think to interpret the question is like, when is enough? And when should I just like stop trying to stack Bitcoin? I think that's a mindset shift of like, you're just saying, well, what are you going to do instead? Just stack fiat? Like at that point, you're like, well, what's the mindset here? Like, am I just, I have enough Bitcoin, I'm just going to stop buying Bitcoin? As long as you're not the person who's like relentlessly selling everything they own and not spending any time with their family, but you're just like earning fiat and then going, I think I have enough Bitcoin, I'll stop buying it now. Well, then you're just holding more fiat, which we all agree, like, what's the point of that? Like, that's not going to outperform your Bitcoin. So like, in that sense, there is no enough is enough. You just you shifting your mindset of fiat is my savings technology, or the S&P is my savings technology. Bitcoin is my savings technology because they outperform all those other things. It's a better way to store and increase purchasing power into the future. So like, as long as you're not like, forgetting to live your life, you just saving in Bitcoin from then on, like, just don't, why would you stop?
Yeah. Just save in Bitcoin. It can be that simple, but yeah, it's like, I think for some people, and I've definitely felt this, like when I actually understood and discovered what Bitcoin was, I felt so behind. I felt like, oh, wow, I need to just do everything I can to get as much Bitcoin as I can. And then you do, maybe that will include like putting off a vacation, or, not getting something you want or whatever. Right. So like those kind of trade-offs you can decide to make at some point. The earlier you make those trade-offs, maybe the better. If you like, your future self will reap the benefits of your current and past actions. But as Rajat said, your future is uncertain. You could get hit by a bus tomorrow. So there is a balance there, right? You can't only prepare your future self to live the life you want to live. You have to balance that out. And at a certain point, like maybe, reach some goals, stacking goals, whatever. And then it is just like, okay, I have done what I've wanted to do. I have spent the time I've wanted to spend. I have created some work in this world that I want to create, or have to create, or whatever. And whatever extra you have, you just put in Bitcoin still. You might still be growing your stack, but it's just not as relentless as maybe when you first got into it. I think there's a sort of a natural progression that can happen as well for individuals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's mentally healthy to have some sort of stacking goal. Maybe it's 1 Bitcoin or whatever, and allow yourself to slow down. Like if you're making a bunch of sacrifices, allow yourself to slow down once you hit your goal. But it's not just like, oh, I'm going to stop now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. I like that the last question from Classics Forever.
Yeah.
And then we'll go to the live session, the happy hour.
Yeah. So so we are missing a couple questions here. It's just kind of the way it is. The live session will be a way to ask more questions, or next time, doing a little RBF, a little replace by fee, and punching in a super chat or a payment to the Lightning Network, which we got another one for 1,500 with no note, 1,500 sats, and another one for 300 with no note. But that's another way to get your question answered, is for next time, because we are running out of time here. But have you guys seen that they are proposing, this is from Classics Forever, the Patriot Act being applied to Bitcoin, and no mixing, no single use addresses, no lightning channels, nothing. They're going hard to kill self-custody and fungibility.
I mean, they can't really kill it. They can do whatever they want to, but they can't destroy Bitcoin. They can't stop it from working. Like, these regulations are in one area and they don't apply for the rest of the world.
Yeah, all they can do is make their citizens fall behind with their Bitcoin holdings. Like right now, the US has, I think, the most Bitcoin per person or whatever, like on average amount. They're at a huge advantage if their citizens are wealthy, right? That leads over to the wealth of the nation. If they propose this, they're limiting the use case of Bitcoin. If you can't have multiple addresses, you're not able to use Bitcoin as described in the white paper. There's a reason that you're supposed to not reuse addresses. And this law would change that, make it so that you're not able to do that. It's ridiculous. I think this is going to die on the floor. I mean, there's no way. I mean, there is a way, but there is a way that this happens. But personally, I think it's just like ridiculous. Like it just makes no sense.
Yeah, I haven't seen exactly what he's talking about to know like the viability of it or how whatever, what they're actually proposing. But I think that this is where the irony of like Bitcoiners sucking up to the government comes in. A lot of people like sort of throw shade at that for like, oh, forever you were cypherpunks who wanted to destroy the government, and now you're like, oh, daddy government, protect my Bitcoin. I think that there's an irony that you can see on the surface there. But the reason I think that it's necessary to some degree have Bitcoiners, lobbying government or whatever, sort of in the halls of power, is because if we leave this power vacuum of the government just gets to decide whatever they want to do, they're gonna come up with some sort of regulation. And if Bitcoiners have no influence on it whatsoever, they're probably gonna, the previous administration was pretty anti-Bitcoin and anti-crypto. So having a friendly, crypto-friendly, Bitcoin-friendly government that we have some influence to like try to get protections for stuff like this, self-custody, etc. It sounds, sounds oxymoronic to be like, I need the government to enshrine my self-custody rights. We shouldn't have to do that, but it's better if we do get that stuff enshrined than to just leave this vacuum and go, oh, do whatever you want, Elizabeth Warren, and because we'll be fine with that either way. It's like, well, we'd better off just like getting our sort of rights enshrined by law than just kind of like sitting back and watching the ways that they're going to try to attack Bitcoin and Bitcoiners.
You want as many people on your side as possible.
Yeah.
All right, let's end it off here. We have it's 3:30. We got the live session for Maple Bitcoin, the happy hour to get to. So
yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in and liking the video, and thanks John for being a guest. Go check him out on My Favorite Thing About Bitcoin. It is 12:30. We are late for the happy hour, so we'll see everybody over there. And yeah, thanks again for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks y'all. Sorry, I'm not Jor.
All good.